Um. Okay, guys. I really hate to do this. Josh is here, I believe, but
Yeah,
he's
I'm
having
here.
some camera problems.
My cat was fucking with my computer and everything and got a
Listen,
whole bunch
Josh.
of shit
The cat's
apart.
not
But
so important right now. There are serious things happening in Japan right now. Fucking
okay.
Tokyo is falling under siege. There's like a high school sporting event. It seems like there are like creatures from another realm invading our world. Like people are transforming into demons.
Oh, really? Okay. Tell me more about that.
I don't think anybody really knows a whole lot about it. It seems to mostly be happening in Japan, but I mean, there were some nightclubs there were some like what people thought were attacks, but I mean, fucking
Uh,
bloodbaths. People just like dying and killing each other left and right. People transforming into these monstrous beings. It's insane. It's like the end times, but it's insane.
jeez, man. Why can't I get this fucking thing to work? Shit.
Did you try turning it off and back on again?
Let me try this one. Is that working?
Oh, there's your camera.
Can you hear? Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, tell me more about this demon thing, I guess.
Wait a minute.
What?
Josh,
What?
you look a little different.
What? What do you mean different?
I mean, I don't know. There's just some you're a little bigger. You got some more muscles. You just look.
I don't really notice
you look
anything different about
different.
my structure.
Don't you fucking lie to me.
No, I legit just I think I look normal. I think I look
Josh,
like my normal
I know
self.
what's going on here. You don't have to fucking
What?
lie to me. I know what's going on
No.
here. You're doing
What do you mean
steroids.
going on? I'm taking steroids?
Yes.
Is that what you? Yeah, that's it. That's it. You caught me. Yeah, I just suddenly had the thought that the Winter Olympics are coming in a couple of years, and I mean that would be a pretty cool thing to be able to try out. I
knew it. Once a juicer, always a juicer. I thought the intervention would have done something, but I mean, Josh, at this point, I just don't know what to do with you anymore, man.
I mean, I'm sorry you think I'm a juicer, I guess.
You should be sorry for being a juicer.
I mean, I don't know how to argue with that, right? Like, if I were to argue with that, I'd have to come up with some other explanation for why I look different. I would have to something, but I guess, yeah, you caught me. I'm definitely juicing.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Brogan.
I'm Josh.
Welcome to How to Otaku.
This is How to Otaku. I'm a little bit disappointed you did not mention my eyeliner at all.
I said you looked different. I was really trying. I mean, like, if I mentioned the eyeliner, that's not a. I don't know. Is ladies and gentlemen in the comments,
just say that my eyes look a little darker or something.
Is like eyeliner
something for
a
our
symptom?
audio listeners?
Is eyeliner? He is wearing mascara right now. Is that a symptom of juicing? I'm not familiar. I know it is a symptom of being turned into a demon, as according to Devilman Crybaby. But
yeah.
Oh yeah,
we
watched Devilman Crybaby.
Yeah, we did. We did watch Devilman Crybaby.
We did watch Devilman Crybaby.
You know,
this is your first time watching this show.
Yeah, it's my first time as well.
And from my experience, from what I saw it on your Snapchat story like 2 days ago, the day you finished the show,
and on the Instagram, yeah,
you had the exact reaction that I think was intended.
Yeah, this show gets heavy. All right, we'll get into it in a little bit, but I think there's a little bit of business we got to talk about first because shit's come up in our personal lives. There's going to be about a month here where we really don't have the time to allocate towards watching 24 episodes, not 24, like 19 episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, right? That's 8 hours of time, right? That we just don't have.
Literally just do not have it for the next month. I'm so sorry. Yeah. It's me. I'll raise my hand. It's me. I can't tell you what I'm doing, but
yeah,
let's just say 68-hour work weeks, 7 days a week, and then some.
Yeah, it's going to be rough for him. So, and on top of that, we do not have the time he doesn't have the time to allocate towards a 100 to 200 hour JRPG. That's also on our docket.
Listen, I'm going to make time for Metaphor. Don't you worry. That game will get played.
I know, but you don't have enough time to cover a significant amount of it before November
and
11th.
Then form coherent opinions
coherent thoughts about it. I listened to another podcast where they talked about it, and people were saying that it doesn't really hit its stride until the 20-hour mark, which is a JRPG-ass thing to say, but...
We will leave our thoughts on Metaphor ReFantagio for that episode. It is a video game, and it is getting its own episode. Just trust me, we'll get there.
We will, and I will say, since it's probably the only time it's going to come up soon, but like, I've been playing the demo, he's been playing the demo. There's a lengthy demo on Steam now.
I was not able to beat the demo before the game came out. I got to like 4 points where I was like, surely this is the last thing I'll do. And then it just kept fucking going.
Yep. So I'm just telling you right now, the big demo for a game that you can check out right now. And it's worth your time, at least to check it out and see if it's your thing, right? And we'll be talking about that soon.
And if you like Shin Megami Tensei or Persona at all, it's your thing. Exactly. If you have minor complaints about either of those series, this will actually probably be even more your shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so just to kind of like give everybody the gist of how things are going as a result of this. So... we are not doing JoJo's Part 4, Part 2 on October 28th as planned. All right. We are pushing that back to November 25th. So that's when we're doing JoJo, when we're picking up JoJo's, right? And
goodbye, JoJo.
Yeah. So what is going to happen on October 28th? Well, we were teasing it as a bonus episode for Halloween Day, but we decided instead to substitute JoJo's Diamond is Unbreakable Part 2 for Uzumaki, the brand new Adult Swim adaptation of the Junji Ito story.
And I would like to step in here to say that this decision was made with some actual thought put behind it, because originally we were expecting it to come out and we were wanting to watch it and drop it as like a little mini episode on Halloween and like give you guys a little treat. But the way that things have panned out, and a lot of it's going to be speculation, but the way that things have panned out, that is not what we're going to be discussing about this show.
Yeah, I expect that at least a third to a half of the episode will not be about the content of the show itself.
Which is insane. We'll get there when we get there, but we are covering Uzumaki. It's 4 episodes. Yeah. It'll be easy to watch, and you probably should, to get the context for what we'll be talking about, because you can see what's wrong with it. You can see what's wrong with it.
Yeah, we're gonna be walking on eggshells and trying not to speculate without asterisks all over. We're not journalists. We're not qualified to really have opinions. We are not
qualified journalists or English Japanese polyglots.
Exactly. Also, like, if you're thinking about it right now, if you've been looking at the articles and they've been blaming any person in particular for this, and you're thinking about sending them a nasty tweet, don't do it.
Don't do
it. Okay. Nobody wants to make bad art. Just chill out.
If I had a nickel for every time somebody butchered Junji Ito's fiction when translating it from page to screen, I would have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it is weird that it happened twice.
Yeah, well, again, we'll talk about Uzumaki on October 28th. My bad. Then November 11th, we're taking that episode off. Nothing's going to happen because we don't really have anything that's short enough like Uzumaki is that we can just fit it into that time slot really easily. So we're just going to take that off. And then November 25th, we're doing Diamond is Unbreakable Part 2. December 9th, we're doing Metaphor ReFantagio a few days ahead of the Game Awards. So if you hear about that game getting a ton of nominations and want to see what the deal is, listen to the show. And then
we may... as part of that episode, have light discussions surrounding our theories about the Game Awards and what we want to see happen? Maybe. It depends on how dense this 200-hour JRPG about storytelling is going to be. Oh.
Yeah. We'll see. But yeah, I am a little excited to just be able to talk about video games on a public forum because I love video games and I love talking about them. But yeah, and then
video game podcast Patreon edition moment possibly. We keep teasing you guys. We keep teasing you guys with Patreon shit. So if any of this sounds interesting, let us know. We'll start one. Yeah, we'll do it.
2025. We'll see what happens. But then December 23rd, we're doing Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim, the theatrically released big budget animated movie, which we'll get into this a little bit when we talk about Uzumaki, but there's some connections in terms of the studios and the art style there.
Oh, is there really?
There's a tenuous connection. We'll talk about it. But
very interesting.
Hopefully we'll talk about it. But anyways, it'll be cool. It'll be interesting to see that movie. But December 23rd, Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim, and then January through April, we're going to be talking about JoJo's. And yeah, that's kind of what we got so far. But I just wanted to give you guys all that heads up and let you guys know that the show is going to be taking a pseudo hiatus, right? It's going to be pretty brief, and part of that hiatus is just that we're going to be talking about something small for one episode, but like, just wanted to let you...
We are working this as best we can to not very much a hiatus, but just a little bit of can kicking. Yeah, we have mitigated the situation as much as we can.
Yep, exactly. So
Josh, if there was a weak little baby kitten that was abandoned all alone by itself in the woods, what would you do?
I mean, I think I would take care of it. I would try to, nurse it back to health, I think. The little kindred soul that I am.
Would it be worth it even if the cat dies?
Would it be worth the effort? I mean, you can't know the cat's going to die until it dies. It's a Schrodinger's cat in that way. So I would say it was worth it. But some people might disagree. Some people might say that there is no point in trying to be empathetic for empathy's sake. And what does this have to do with Devilman Crybaby? It has everything to do with Devilman Crybaby.
It get the entire fucking show, and I'm only like, I've seen this show 2 or 3 times at this point. So like, I just see it. I see the Matrix. I see all the fucking, so like, that's the entire point. I don't want to I don't want to give the bag away too soon, but like this show is all about love and how it is expressed. There are other layers to that, but like the primary message of this is like, what can love for others? What can love for self? What can it do? And what is it worth?
Yeah. And what can love for society and just like general empathy to build the way the world works, right?
And this show has its own answer, which is, I really do think this show did a lot. I watched it when it came out, and I was like still in high school, but genuinely, I think this show had a lot to do with my empathetic development around that time.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds a little weird, but just like this show really is all about like, even in the face of adversity, even in the face of knowing that it's all worthless, it's still worth trying.
Yeah. Not to give the bag too far away, right? Like we should probably talk about like the beginnings of the show, right? So like you said, we start off with this immediate image of these two characters, Akira and Ryo, who are just little boys in this seaside town or whatever. They come across a cat, and Akira takes care of the cat, and Ryo is like, why are you taking care of the cat? And he's like, because it needs me, right? It needs my help. And then the cat dies, as Ryo predicts, and Ryo's like, you knew this was going to happen. Why would you do it? And And
why are you crying?
yeah, and then Akira's like, you're crying too. And
you're crying too.
And oh my god, as a writer, I love when like the first 2 minutes of anything just sum up the whole show. You know?
And it's like what you watch this the first time and you have no fucking idea. You're like, huh?
Yeah, it does really give you very little context, because interspersed with that is all this kind of like cosmological, like planetary shit going on that you have no real context for yet.
Right. A very Japanese idea of like Western Christianity.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about it. I have some thoughts about how this show handles Christianity, but I think it's interesting.
I think this show handles Christianity better than some Christians that I know.
It does. But as somebody who is raised in Christianity, I'll talk about it. But we fast forward to present day, and Akira is now in a different town with a different foster family, and he's going to school. He and his sister.
I should say his parents are not dead. His parents they're abroad. They like work overseas.
Mm-hmm. And they're often so busy with that it's like, okay, well, here, have this kid, essentially. And
right, which is why seems like they don't see each other so driven much. To connect with other people. He does not want others to feel abandoned in the way that he has.
Yeah, and like there's Akira and Miki, his adopted sister, and all these other classmates who we get introduced to later are doing track meet, right? That's kind of one of the running themes of the show. We'll get into it in a little bit, but they're doing their track meet.
Running?
And I'm trying to remember exactly how this comes about, but some kind of incident happens, like in the bleachers. I forget exactly what's said, but when Akira hears it, he just starts crying, right? It's this weird, awkward thing where it's like, it's a very deep, passionate, emotional response when most people would feel a little bit more apathetic about it, right? And it immediately establishes this character as like having held on to that empathy as a child that he had as a child, to the point where he has these emotional outbursts over just like hearing some anecdote from somebody else.
I mean, and he'll just be in normal conversations with somebody and they'll say something that's like a little offhandedly heartbreaking. Like they just talk about the way that their life is or something that happened in their past that was like mildly unfortunate, or even like unfortunate, but something that everyone deals with. And people generally just say like, what can you do? He just breaks down in full tears, just sobbing rivers down his face, just still maintaining the conversation.
Yep. Yeah. And this thing helps him. I mean, we see that help him out in a later scene in the first episode where Miki is being harassed by these thugs on a pier, and
who beatbox and rap.
Yeah, and we can talk about those guys because they're fun.
They're dope. Aside from the harassment, they're dope.
Yeah, aside from the harassment, they're dope. But like, they're teenagers.
Nobody clipped that.
On. But when they're hitting on Miki, essentially, Akira comes in there and like essentially distracts them with this bit about a mermaid, and like he came out of nowhere, so they're like near the water or something, and they're like, "What are you, a mermaid?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess." And that distracts them enough that Miki's able to get away. And that's also when we're reintroduced to Rio, who is, I don't know if they clarify this very well in the show. He just kind of has like a vague, like, he's a professor of some type now, and he's just very rich. At
this glow up stage, he instantly falls into the exact trope that Josh we see in the demo of Metaphor Refantasio. But we also see in one of the pieces of Kino fiction, peak God walking among men, Berserk. We see this not stereotype, I guess, but like this archetype of this vaguely androgynous, like really well put together, like just gorgeous person, right? And it's like, that's obviously the fucking bad guy. It's always like blonde hair, blue eye, fucking very demure, very quaint.
Yeah, Wonder what that says about our ongoing friendship. Me being the blonde-haired, blue-eyed one, and you being the.
I mean, I literally made a joke about this before we started recording, but like, I mean, if you just look at this picture and then you put it side by side with a picture of Rio and fucking Akira, I'm not saying we look the same, but the color palettes match up.
Yeah, the color palettes match up. I'm trying to fix my hair here, man. But yeah, so Rio finally re-meets with Akira, and there's this moment where they're kind of like they're reconnecting, and Akira gets to ride in his like nice little like
dope-ass supercar.
Yeah, supercar or whatever, and that's actually what distracts the guys away. It's just like this guy coming out of nowhere. He fires an SMG at them, essentially. Doesn't kill anyone, but
Akira, get in the car.
Yep, Akira, get in the
car.
Oh,
wait. So I actually do have a little bit of context for the original Devilman animated series, and it's that the dub is fucking hilarious.
Thanks.
Beyond that, I don't know anything about the original Devilman series. I was asked to interject at some point with a little bit of context about this. The original Devilman series was much longer running, and it was a very like monster of the week kind of thing. I think the original manga was the same way, like Devilman, OG-ass Devilman. It came out very briefly after like the Astro Boy era. Like it was an early manga.
Yeah, so let me give a little bit of context about the original manga, because I've only done a bit of I've only done a little bit of cursory research on it, but like the story behind it seems really, really weird and interesting. So first was, let me look up the name here so I don't get it wrong, Demon Lord Dante. That was Go Nakai's first manga, this like pseudo series, I guess. So like, and that one is about a guy named Ryo Utsugi, who is like sort of similar to Rio in this show, right? He is similarly like he has a demon in him called Dante, and that he is fighting against God. So like it's kind of like a mix between the Akira character and the Rio character that we know in this show.
When you say Dante, I want you to put in some Devil May Cry music, pretty please.
Well, that's funny because this show was also, or this manga was also inspired by, of course, Dante's Divine Comedy, right? All the layers of hell and the empathy for Satan that work has. That is put into Demon Lord Dante, right? His first series. And then I believe Toei approaches them or approaches him about like making a manga that's making an anime that's based on that, but way lighter and like basically like has a real good guy in it that people can root for. And so Nagai is like, okay, I still kind of want to hold on to these darker themes, but like I also kind of want to get the bag. So I'm basically going to create Devilman, which is like which takes the part about like turning into a demon and fighting against like a biblical force element of it from the other manga. But,
except we'll twist it just a bit so that he turns into a demon, but his inner human is stronger. So he fights the demon within, and he also fights the worst demons without.
Exactly, right? That's kind of the setup for Devilman, even though it still holds on to the whole religious element. And notably enough, the original ending of this is very similar to the ending of Devilman Crybaby. Devilman Crybaby is actually the closest they've ever gotten to adapting not the entire plot, but like adapting it in spirit, right?
Right. The originally intended like themes and ideas, because that original run went on for a long fucking time.
Actually, the original run went from 1972 to 1973.
Wow.
So
okay.
It was a little over a year, but like I believe it was in Weekly Shonen, so it was like just getting put out week after week. So it was like 52 issues. It wasn't a short manga, but it wasn't that long lived. So, but that's kind of how that came about. The Devilman series that Toei created was more faithful in terms of like the style of the show, right? Like it was more faithful to like the way Nagai's artwork looked.
Mhm.
It obviously toned down a lot of the really dark stuff that this show that manga got into, and that
some of the more
this show pulls a
horror
little bit more
elements
from.
of the
Yeah. So that's my understanding of it. Obviously, if we get anything wrong, send us an email or something. We'll, I'll probably add a little addendum to this if I ever get any real feedback and be like, hey, this is actually how it was. That's what I know from cursory research. So
put in your favorite clip of the OG Devilman dub.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll get to the original Devilman someday, because I think that would be an interesting show to look at, especially because, first of all, because it's pretty old, and second of all, because it seems to be a precursor to Berserk, right? If Devilman doesn't happen, maybe, I don't know if Berserk never happens, but Berserk might have been different in some way.
I think if Devilman doesn't exist, Berserk is like fundamentally different.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think you get like the concept of the brand or like any of that shit if Devilman doesn't exist.
Yeah. But anyways, back to the show. So Akira and Rio are in the car now, and Rio's like, so I was in the rainforest researching spiders when my mom died or whatever, and Wait, did you catch the Madam Web reference?
It hit me just before you said that.
I'm thinking about the fact that Madam Web has outgrossed Joker 2 a lot right now.
I'm thinking about the fact that I could hotbox an entire theater by myself during a showing of Joker 2 and nobody would care. Any theater that wants to let me hotbox it to Joker 2. Get in touch.
Alamo Drafthouse hotbox screenings. Oh, man. Man, we're just addicted to pissing off DC fans these days.
DC fans? What did I do this time?
No, I'm just talking about how much shit we give Zack Snyder.
Bro.
Anyway, we got to get back to the show. We haven't even gotten to like the core conceit, and we're like half an hour in. But so Rio tells Akira about this research he's been doing in the rainforest or whatever, and this this Spanish doctor or whatever who is researching with transforms into this monster and kills himself before he can kill anybody else, right? And that sends Rio down this rabbit hole of exploring like this underground like culture of demons that are in these nightclubs or whatever, and cause these isolated incidents of extreme violence in these hedonistic clubs. So they go to one of these clubs, and like I'm not well versed enough in television to say this, but this is some of the most extreme shit I've seen in television.
This is burned into my fucking brain. And like, they go over, they sit down on the bench, they have the world's briefest, like, nothing conversation. And then Ryu just fucking stands up, pulls a box cutter out of his jacket, and just starts killing people.
Yeah. And like, if you didn't think this guy was evil before, he's the bad guy now.
Which
he's
is
definitely
like,
the bad guy.
Like, this is episode 1. Like, we go from you should just kill the fucking cat. I have a box cutter right here. I'm gonna kill the fucking cat to get in the car. We're going to the club, and he just smashes a bottle on the table and like 3 dudes.
Yeah, but when he does that, it eventually unleashes a demon within one of these people who starts like devouring everybody in the club, and like so. Science Saru, the show, the studio behind this, like they're not really known for this kind of ultra violence, right? Like they have a pretty like we can talk about Dandadan a little bit in relation to this. I haven't seen the new episode, so don't spoil it.
I've only seen episode 1. I've read the manga ish a little bit. I've seen maybe 10 episodes in. through the
Okay.
manga, but I've also not seen episode 2 yet.
Okay, so we can talk about Dan Dan just a teensy weensy little bit. We might talk about it in a future episode. We'll see. But so they have a pretty like fluid style that breaks model a lot, and like they have like Yuasa loves to have like these characters that have just like extremely long legs and arms and just like these very fluid movements and like very stickman-y kind of thing, and like it's
very interested in exaggerating the mechanics of the human body.
Exactly.
Like in almost a rubber hose kind of way. Like, and it's part of the reason that I love Fooly Cooly so much. This has all been a very curated experience, Josh.
I'm living in your mind palace right now.
But yeah, when showrunners and the animators that they are directing are capable and confident enough to break model with purpose, it is when this medium shines to its highest. You can't do that in a live action film with a real human body. You can't describe this in a book in as impactful a way. It is only through the medium of animation that you can give physical action like above average impact and emotion. Like you can do a little bit through like editing and effects in film, but in animation you can fully shape the world to be whatever you want it to be, to show exactly what you want to show.
Yeah, and I think that from some of my research about this, I was actually going to look further into this, but somebody decided to hack the Internet Archive today, so I can't get to some of these articles I'm trying to find. But
oh no,
you didn't know about this?
So, I know.
Some fuckwit internet hacker trying to prove a point or whatever is like, I'm going to take down the Internet Archive. There's no purpose to it. It doesn't seem right. It probably just seems like one of those guys who's like in a basement just trying to make a name for himself or whatever. Yeah, just like doing it because he can. But like, fuck you, man.
No, yeah.
Really, fuck you.
My sincerest and most heartfelt eat shit asshole fall off your horse to the guy that said, I listened to the last 10 episodes of How to Otaku. I heard these guys talking all about how this is the most important shit we got going on right now. I'm going to fuck it all up. Eat shit, asshole, fall off your horse.
Yep, and the good news about that is that it seems that the rest of the hacker community was in line with that, thinking it was like, we're going to track this fucker down. And like, again, I don't advocate for any kind of like real world harassment or anything, but you know, this guy deserves a little bit of,
There are certain circumstances in which
this guy deserves to be
puts themselves on a pedestal. Listen, this guy, he exercised his First Amendment rights, and he is now experiencing that not First Amendment rights. He hacked a corporation and he took down their website without their permission. That's illegal. But then the community writ large decided that these are his consequences, and who am I to say that's bad, you know? Contextually.
Yeah. So, anyways, back on track, because I wasn't able to properly research this topic, but it seems like there was a little bit of division within the like Devilman fan base about this adaptation.
Oh yeah.
And part of it was just that like the Science Saru style is so different from the Go Nagai style. Right.
That was the primary complaint that I heard about the series when it was coming out, was that it did not look at all like Go Nagai's original artwork, which is true. This show looks nothing like the original artwork. Go Nagai had a very specific style. And honestly, in my personal opinion, it is very specific to the time it was created. There are, at least by the time that Science Saru did this adaptation, Crybaby looks a lot more like a modern anime than the original adaptation. Now, obviously, it looks very different from a lot of other modern anime. Like the characters are very weird looking.
Yeah.
Like, even the normal people are pretty fucking weird looking. Their proportions are off. Their arms are... People were weirded out by it and disappointed,
Yeah.
but it plays to the vision of what the show is trying to do.
Yeah, if you take it on its own terms in the way that, like, you might take some interesting visionary director's, adaptation of something else on its own terms. Like, I'm trying to think of a version of that's good, and for some reason all I'm thinking about is the bad Tim Burton remakes that are out there.
All I'm thinking about is Batman versus Superman, because I can't stop antagonizing
Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder fans. I can't remember the guy's fucking name.
Hey, look, part of our podcast credentials is hating on Zack Snyder, okay? If we didn't do that, we wouldn't be worth listening to.
What critics would we be if we didn't shit on Zack Snyder here or there?
Exactly. But what I was getting to with all this discussion about Science Saru's style is that these characters have so much fluidity and so much life to them that when they suddenly just burst into, like, bright red splotches, it's incredibly jarring. Like, I'm not sure you've seen this movie, but have you seen Masaki Yuasa's film Inuo? Have you seen that one? It's the one with it's the one with like the crazy guitar player who like basically becomes a pop star in some century Japan or whatever. And so
I've not seen this.
Okay, so the movie seems like pretty normal for a while, and then it has a very vicious act of violence at the very end that is very reminiscent of this, right? And like the movie has virtually no violence up to that point, but then this moment is like such a like, whoa, I didn't know that this could happen kind of thing. Right. I don't want to spoil it, but it's very cool. But
and that moment happens 15 minutes into episode 1.
Yeah, exactly. And
then it happens again.
Anyways,
at the beginning of episode 2. It's like,
yeah, it keeps happening. But anyways, as I was saying, so Rio is causing all this violence, and that unleashes the demons in there to basically like sharks in a pool with blood or whatever. It's like it's unleashed them, and now they're attacking everything. And then Rio just kind of like steps to the side while Akira's watching everything that's going on, and eventually starts getting chased by a demon. Bro whips out a camera, and he starts calling out to one specific demon to take over Akira's body. And so then the demon does that because obviously Akira is just like a Gumby little guy. He can't fight a demon. So he gets swallowed by the demon, but his innate empathy is so strong that he is able to control the demon and harness its power for his own intentions rather than the intentions of the demon, right?
The indomitable human spirit. Josh.
The indomitable human spirit.
The indomitable human
Imagine if that was the point of the show.
Bro, indomitable human spirit media really speaks to me, and we won't get into why that is. I think Sisyphus would be a lot happier if he had like a big number at the top of the mountain that incremented every time he pushed the rock, and he could spend the points to get little stickers to put on the rock.
Are you basically pitching a Sisyphus roguelike?
This is a tweet I saw. But that game does exist, though.
So after this happens, so Akira, who eventually goes by the moniker Devilman, right, it decides to essentially eviscerate all of the other demons in this room to save the few people who are still alive in this massacre, right? Like, and so he doesn't save everyone, obviously, but he prevents a lot more death than what could have been. And this is kind of like the way that the first few episodes of the show go about, is that like there's some new monster that comes about and he stops them from doing more damage than they can do. But of course, in the process, like, some people are getting hurt, and this conspiracy is starting to unravel to the real world. Right.
People are starting to notice. What was it? Is that a fucking demon?
Yeah, exactly. So, and along the way with this, Akira, like, he evolves as a teenager, right? Like, the show isn't, I mean, the devil thing isn't just about, like, the indomitable human spirit. It's also kind of like a metaphor for puberty, right? Like,
right, because again, this show is about love and how humans express love and what love means. And the old horizontal, what is it? The old horizontal salsa.
Yep, exactly. But like, so Akira has like this full visual transformation from like this little guy, just a little guy,
very quaint, very demure,
yeah, to like very tall, and he has like a kind of like a big hairdo and the eyeliner and everything, and like all the girls think he's hot now, and but he's still kind of the same guy,
right?
He just now eats a lot.
Yeah, right. He's still exactly the same guy, but he has Goku hair and Goku appetite.
Exactly. And
eyeliner built in.
Yeah, exactly. And he has developing feelings about his adopted sister, which we briefly talked about that sort of thing during our Summer Wars episode, right? It's a little more palatable in this show because it's like, it's two teenagers, they're roughly the same age, you know, it's not clear,
and it's not like, right, and it's a situation where it's like, it is kind of odd because, let's just be real, the step siblings thing in general is just like, but it's like, it's a situation where they're like, they moved in together fairly recently. It's not like they were brother and sister from the time they were infants, and like, it would be weird. It's still kind of weird.
Yeah. It's still a little weird, but it leads to probably one of the funniest moments in the show, which is like one of the funniest gross out moments anyway, is like just like Akira having this wet dream about her and then waking up and seeing just like
the entire room,
the biggest mess on the ceiling of his room. It is. And that was the moment where I was like,
on the ceiling,
we could get away with anything on television now, right?
Oh God! Wait until we talk about Golden Kamui.
I don't know what that is, but
you will.
Now I'm not sure if I want to know. But anyways, that's part of the whole like transformation thing that he's got going on, right? At least initially, it's like it's just kind of like this humanizing element to the transformation that kind of like that gives it a little bit more depth than just the, oh, now he has power, but he's using it for good, right? It develops that into a more interesting idea for him. Right. And we can also use this to like talk about his adopted family for a second, because the stuff that they set up with the family becomes extremely important to where the show is going in terms of its symbolism and the reason for the conspiracy going on, right?
Right.
So essentially my understanding is that the dad of the household is white, right? White dude.
I think so.
He's like he has a very like English looking bone structure, and he's got like blonde hair and a big and like a little goatee thing going on,
sure.
like blue eyes, and like he just looks pretty Aryan to me.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry, I was blanking. Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but not in a fash way, and kind of just like the
way that right, in a way that. Oh, I thought you were talking about not your own comments in a fash way. Just in a way that Japanese studios tend to draw Western men.
Yeah, and then my understanding is that the mom is Japanese, because they still have a Japanese surname. So my understanding is that he married her, he immigrated there, married her, took on the name, and then he had these two kids. And what's the little kid's name? Help me out here. It is, gosh, Taro. Little kid Taro. That's the original family, is mom, dad, Miki, Taro, right? And then they take in Akira as an adopted son while his parents are away. I think they're doctors, they say. So they're kind of like out in the world doing doctor stuff, right?
Right.
But the very first scene we get with them, they're just being very calm, and they're trying to like raise their sons with or raise their children with good morals or whatever. And then you cut to the children, and behind them is a full portrait, or is a full like
of the Last Supper.
Yeah. A full print of the Last Supper right behind them, and like
in an immaculate frame, just like right over the dinner table.
Yep. And you get that right away. That's like, oh, this is a Christian family. And I looked up the statistics on it. Only 1% of Japan is Christian. So like it's an interesting lens to look through the show, right?
It's because it's not commented
notable culturally, but like it still exists there. And I'm not as versed on the way Christianity was handled in Japan. I know that in the 19th and 20th century, there was a lot of government pushback against missionaries, right? There's like a whole Martin Scorsese movie about it I haven't seen yet, but but then like to a certain point, like it eventually got in after the westernization of Japan. And while it's still a really uncommon religious belief for them to have, my understanding is that like the people who are Christian in that country are like pretty ardently Christian, right? Because here in America, it's like you have evangelicals and you have like staunch Catholics, but there are also a lot of people who are just like, I'm Christian, but I don't really go to church or read the Bible much. That's sort of like casual Christianity. But my understanding is that in Japan, it's a little bit more, it's because it's such an isolated culture. It's more steadfast in its beliefs. I might be generalizing, but
is the 1% of Japanese Christians as far right as the American Christians?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not talking about like.
I know that's not what you're saying. I am asking.
I would love to know that too. If anybody out there understands like the way Christianity is spread through Japan, please let us know. Again, I didn't get to do a lot of research because a lot of my research was being impeded. But that's my understanding of it, right? So like it's just a difference. And it's interesting because I looked up Go Nakai, and it doesn't seem like he had a religious upbringing. So like he's coming to all of this from like a very
inquisitive stance.
Like he comes to Revelation as more of like a mythology that can be used as a framework for the story, as opposed to
I guess it's
something he has to strict like to. Yeah.
The Greek gods. Like it's like, well, and you see this, you see it not so much in Metaphor, because Metaphor is very specifically doing its own thing, but in SMT, like you have a lot of that kind of like biblical imagery, but it just throws it in with like Egyptian mythology, Greek mythology. It just bleeds it together like it's all just mythology.
Yeah. So like, and I don't know how else to fit this in, but I think it's interesting that there's like a whole village in Japan where people think that Jesus went after he died, right? Right?
That'll be important later, Josh. Hold on to that idea. That will be important later.
But
whenever part 7 gets animated, we'll talk about that again.
But in this show, like it's you see that there's like this faith that's being held within like the core family, right?
Sure.
And like they have an understanding of the Bible and like the principal ethics of the Bible, which is to just like be a nice person, treat others with respect, and that influences Miki as a character because she is just so damn nice, right? And like I've known Christians like this who are like nice to the point of annoyance, right? Who are just like so deeply positive about the world, and like there's an infectiousness to it that either like gets you positive or gets you really negative. And and we see that in Miko, the other one of the other runners in their track group, who has a lot of like deep-seated difficulty with Miki Makimura, who is
what a name, by the way.
Yeah,
Miki Makimura.
Miki Makimura. It's almost a tongue twister, but it rolls off the tongue. But anyway, because they're both named Miki, but Miki Makimura is the more popular one. Let me say, Miki Kuroda gets called Miko whenever she's like in the same circle as Miki, right? So there's kind of like a hierarchy to the names, right?
Right.
The best Miki gets Miki, and the second best gets Miko. And she's like, I want to be up here. I want to be as good as you, you know? And as the person who is always the third Josh, I get it.
The third Josh?
There were 3 Joshes in my graduating class, and I was never the one who was just called Josh if there was 2 of us in the same conversation.
Damn.
So, but
I believe it or not, I haven't really ever met another Broken. I've crossed paths with one.
Yeah, that one's a little bit of an uncommon name, I feel like. I don't know, maybe not uncommon, but just like, it's not overused.
Relative to where I am in the world.
Yep. It's not like, you know.
Very few of us.
It's not Joshua and it's not Kaylee. So, you know, consider yourself blessed.
It's not John Smith.
John Smith. Anyways, so like, to get back to the plot. So like, for a few episodes there, it's like Monster of the Week kind of thing. Like, there's the first monster is just like these 2 monsters who are like about to eat some guy in an alley, and then there's this like, what do I want to call him? Like this private investigator, I guess, right? Who is trying to get pictures of them, right? And he's also doing like a side hustle where he's photographing teenage girls for magazines, right? And that becomes a point in the next
really
episode.
Launching the modeling career.
Exactly. But like, this guy is like trying to get video evidence of these demons that he knows exist. And as he's doing that, then
freelance
Akira, now
journalist.
Devilman. Yeah. Akira, now Devilman, is like Rio has essentially convinced to become like essentially vigilante. A superhero, right? Yeah, vigilante. He steps in and like tries to save the guy. I don't think he does, but he at least avenges him, right? And in the process of that, this guy gets the footage and like tries to pawn it off to like a TMZ type, and the TMZ guy's like, get the fuck out of here. So
what are you talking about, fucking demons?
Rio catches that guy, or like catches sight of that guy who's getting footage and like gets away, and he's like, we gotta track that guy down. So then he starts using that as an excuse to basically like surveil everyone, right? He like, I don't know, I guess he hacks into some system or whatever, and is like, I can track any cell phone now. And so like, he can now track this guy, but he can also track Akira, and he can track all of Akira's family, right? And like, I love that the show just has like a pretty gradual escalation of like Rio's ascent to power, right? That he's like, that he like justifies things at every step of the way.
But it is always just kind of happening off in the background. Like Rio is just kind of slowly like, and then eventually like, when you get to the episode where he's like on the fucking screen in the middle of downtown, and fucking everybody's got him on their TV, and it's like, ladies and gentlemen, these motherfucking demons out in these streets.
Yeah, and you're like, who is this guy, and what authority does he have?
It's like, what are you doing up there?
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, like, they never really clear up exactly, like, what his job is, right? Because he's, like, a professor of something, but he also seems to, like, own a network TV crew or something, right?
And the tallest penthouse in the entire fucking
like, it's not really clear what
area.
It's not really clear exactly like what his path to this position was, and he also seems still pretty young, right? Like, I mean, he's the same age as Akira,
lab coat
essentially.
ever.
Yeah. So, like, what did he do to get to this power? And, like, not to get too far ahead, but, like, the only thing that seems to make sense is just, like, being Satan.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Sorry, I got to the big spoiler, is that Ryo is Satan.
Ryo is Satan.
If you got an hour into this episode and you haven't watched the show, I mean, I guess that's on you, man. But
that's on
Ryo is Satan.
Ryo is Satan.
But
at first you have like I actually had trouble like grasping that concept, but it's like no, like it's very weird because we should probably get into like the deeper themes of the show and at least the more
apocalyptic.
Well, yeah, dude, just like the reason there are 300 million Devilman Crybaby explained videos. So like
I don't know if it's that complicated, but yeah.
Well, you wouldn't think so, but like literally go on YouTube right now and type in Devilman Crybaby explained and tell me how many results there are. Like,
I mean, let me look this up while you start doing Devilman Crybaby explained.
So
301.
It's a time loop. Time is a flat circle. Ryo is Satan, and he is stuck on Earth for experience. He is there learning things. He has fallen from heaven, and he is here to learn. And so
there are a lot of videos. But, the hidden meaning of Devilman Crybaby explained.
He meets Akira and he sees this kid who is so fucking stubborn to try and save this cat that he knows is gonna die.
Yeah.
What is wrong with this dude? Why I have never in millions of years, trillions of years, in countless time, never seen someone do this.
So my understanding of Ryo as a character, his progression through the series, is that like he isn't aware that he's Satan until the point in which he goes back to that native tribe and like the military follows him, tries to gun everyone down, including him. And he's able to just like reverse all of the bullets back at the soldiers, right?
Right.
That's kind of what he realizes, like, I am something greater than human, right?
Yes. That's when he realizes it, but he always like
yeah, but there's
knows.
a subconscious thing going on.
Right.
You know, it reminds me of The Omen, I guess, where it's like this kid maybe doesn't know that he's the Antichrist. He's still doing Antichrist things. And then he comes to some realization at some point. But like, or maybe I'm getting that mixed up with something else. I think that kid knows he's the Antichrist through the whole thing and just doesn't tell anybody. But I might be conflating that with something else. But anyway, my point being that he is doing things subconsciously because that's kind of what his Satan nature within him is telling him to do, and he's not resisting it in any way. Right? And like, I kind of caught on to this stuff early on because I was recognizing that there was like an apocalyptic thing happening, a real breakdown in society, and he was kind of at the center of it. And then they start showing you the Bible and like quoting Revelation and stuff. And I'm like, oh, Ryo's the Antichrist. Okay, that makes sense to me. That makes sense. But then it turns out he's literally Satan. Right? And theologists correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the Antichrist and Satan are like two semi-separate things, right? They kind of have the same relationship that God and Jesus do, where they're like kind of the same thing and function in similar ways, but like they're two separate entities.
Right.
That are just kind of paired together.
And this
kind of conflates the two.
I was going to say, you may be correct in like an actual literal to theology sense. And if we had a professor of theology who has read the Bible many more times than I had and cared to remember those kinds of details, they would probably slap me on the hands with a ruler.
This is the show where we pretend to know stuff and we don't. Hit that follow button.
But in the context of this show, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's conflating the concepts of like Satan and Lucifer and the Antichrist, like fallen angel, like that whole thing. It's being conflated into this one character.
Yeah, like, and that's kind of why, like, I don't find the show too difficult to understand, because, like, while I haven't read all of Revelation, I kind of know, like, the broad outline of it, which is that, like, at some point, shit just hits the fan, right? Like, the whole world descends into chaos, and
the true Christians will be taken, everybody else is left.
Well, that's the interesting thing, is that there's never a rapture, really, right?
Really? Okay.
Like, there is, like, that big heavenly orb thing that happens to the Earth at some point, but I don't think that's the rapture, because it's only happening on one side of the planet. So that's basically just implying that everybody else is not Christian enough.
Sounds like either a meteor or fucking nukes.
I don't know. Like, it looks.
People have been saying for centuries, "Oh, fucking Revelation sounds like this."
Yeah, yeah, but like, no, like I'm talking about like the orb that has like this kind of like heavenly, like little loopy design. And like, I'm not sure if that's the rapture, but I'm also not sure what else it would be. Right? It's again one of these things where like it's like somebody kind of understands the revelation.
You're talking about in the show.
In the show. But my general understanding of Revelation as it exists in the Bible is that it's the rapture happens, and then there's like years of chaos. Everybody's fighting against each other, and eventually, like, the whole planet gets destroyed, and then it gets reborn anew. Right?
Sure.
So it's not really so much that this is a cycle that like that Earth like literally gets like reset. It's more like this is new Earth, right? The place where my chosen people are going to live now that this old world has burned up, right?
Right.
And there's the scene where at the very end where like the moon gets split in half, and then at the very end you see there's two moons. Literally been reformed as a new Earth, but with two moons this time, you know? It's like Earth 2.
Electric Boogaloo.
God uses the moons as a measurement of counting which Earth he's on, you know? Because at some point it kind of gets difficult to tell them apart, you know? Like, you know, how's he supposed to know how many hurricanes he's supposed to invent for the world if
fucking God, you know, charging up a Donkey Kong neutral
Earth
B in the fucking Earth Gulf Coast?
You know?
These hurricanes are horrible. I hope everybody who's being affected by them gets the help that they need.
But we'll make little jokes.
God, I heard somebody call Milton God charging a Donkey Kong neutral B in the Gulf Coast. And I just about lost my shit. It could have been so much worse. That was the second fastest tropical storm to Category 5 ever recorded. And I don't know if it ever got stronger, but as far as I know, it was the fourth strongest Category 5 ever recorded while it was developing.
Yeah, I believe it made landfall as a Category 3, though. So, you know, it not to say that so much damage was done, but it could have been way worse. Yeah. So, anyways, like, all this to say, like, I kind of saw the way the arc of things were going by that point. But also I was like, the two questions I had were like, one, is Rio the Antichrist or Satan?
Yes.
And two, are they actually going to follow through with this all the way, right? Is the Earth literally going to be destroyed and reborn anew? Or is Devilman just going to save the day? And not to get too ahead, because there's still a lot of stuff from the previous episodes to talk about, but it's the first one.
It is in fact the first one.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. I just caught on to that stuff really early. But was there something else like that you wanted to add?
You seem to know way more about this than I do.
Yeah, well, when you have all this stuff like jammed into your brain at a very young age, it makes an impression. And to say any more would be to treat the audience like my therapist.
I was a Methodist. It was very vibes-based Christianity. It was still kind of rancid vibes, though.
Yeah, I got a lot of the Baptist. Here's the Focus on the Family CD where we tell you why Dungeons and Dragons is literally Satan.
God, if the Baptists knew what I was doing other than Dungeons and Dragons,
Oh
bro,
man.
I'm not just playing Dungeons and Dragons. I play Star Wars Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh,
Come get me,
no.
Baptists. Ugh.
But anyway, like, so back to the earlier episodes. So like this guy can't sell off his proof of Akira's existence, right?
Right.
So Akira and Rio are basically trying to track him down at this point.
Mhm.
And while that's happening, another demon is like, oh, they have, well, I guess the demon underground society writ large discovers that that this one guy has that evidence of demons.
Right.
And so they send a demon to basically take over his body, right? And then that demon goes to his like photo studio or whatever, and Miki meets him at the time that they were supposed to do a photo shoot, right?
Right.
And when that happens, like, there's a very upsetting interaction where it's like he's clearly getting some kind of the demon's getting some kind of perversion out of peeping on her in the shower, right? And it's very uncomfortable, man, right?
Right.
Like it, and thankfully that's as perverse as the show gets. It never really gets like assaulty.
It's much more worried about assault in the sense of ripping a motherfucker in half. Thankfully, this is weird, but in the subject matter that we've seen that this show is comfortable covering, I am glad that they are at least respectful. I don't know what the term would be, because like
I think my
obviously
understanding
like,
is that
it's like leering and weird.
Yeah, like I don't want to generalize Japan too hard, but it seems like a lot of their broad pop culture has a more conservative viewpoints than ours, so they're always a little bit behind the social issues of our time, right? Just a little bit. Not to say we're always doing great here in America, of course. Check your voter registration, but
check your voter registration. Early voting starts in the 15th in some areas.
Yeah, but my understanding is that like a lot of the stuff that happens in Japan, or a lot of the content that's created in Japan, can be a little bit insensitive by our standards, and I think that Science Saru and Studio Trigger and these kind of like these newer studios that are kind of coming up are doing a really good job of like meeting the kind of the transcontinental gap in cultures really well. They're being more respectful of women and people of gender minorities and stuff like that. They're doing a better job. Right? Well,
that's the thing too. It's up until very recently that they stopped drawing, like they is a very general term, but like since animes stopped depicting black characters with the big round minstrel show lips and like two hairstyles, like that was very recent, and that's not because of any like necessarily implicit racism within any given mangaka or animator in Japan in that time period. It's more of a symptom of westernization where they really don't have much cultural interaction with black people like at all, and the handful of depictions that they got from interacting with Western cultures were racist.
Yeah. So that kind of just permeates their culture
Right.
and
That, like,
their
and
way
it's
of depicting
not to
black
like
people.
infantilize them in any way and say like, oh, they just didn't know better, but like dead ass, they really that's like
They just
what
didn't.
they knew.
Yeah, they just didn't have as much access to that information and that perspective.
And they are
right?
much better about it now.
Yeah, they're much better about it now. And definitely much better about depictions of women and depictions of sexual assault, right? And
Generally,
this show,
we can talk about Goblin Slayer at some point, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't really want to.
Yeah, and this show, for all of the fucking awful things it depicts, we can talk about episode 9 in a bit, but for all the awful things it depicts, it never depicts rape, which is, I shouldn't have to say that it's refreshing, but like, again, with a show that has as much dark material as this does, it does feel refreshing that it goes this dark without going into that sector of dark. Right. But
I don't always want to read Berserk.
Yeah. But anyway, so we briefly get this episode where this interaction where Miki and this creepy photojournalist guy are having like this weird perverse altercation, and then the demon goes into Miki, right? And takes her body over instead, which is like, I will say, this is the one kind of inconsistent depiction of a demon that there is, right? My understanding from the other demons is that it just kind of takes over one person and then that's the person they got, right? But this is the one that can like transfer to other people.
Yeah.
And it's not like a stand thing where like the stands are kind of like amorphous, whatever you want them to be kind of a thing. It feels a little bit inconsistent, but it does make for a cool episode where like Miki has this demon inside of her, but Devilman is actually able to save her, right?
Am I wrong, or does he like bite it out of her? So
essentially he sucks it out of her mouth, right? Like it's kind of a kiss thing, but it's more of like it's more like CPR, like reverse CPR, where you're sucking something out of somebody's lungs rather than.
I remember the shot of him with the demon in his teeth or some shit.
Like he sucks it in, like holds it in his stomach, and then the demon's briefly like, haha, I got you. I'm going to get inside of you, and whatever. And then Devilman's just like, fuck you. I'm going to get so hot that you evaporate and die.
Fucking.
And that's after a chase with naked demon Miki, which is
Jujutsu
crazy.
Kaisen moment.
Yeah.
God, we'll get to Jujutsu Kaisen at some point.
One of these days we'll get to Jujutsu Kaisen. We promise. We promise, JJK fans. It's on the list. We're going to figure it out.
I'm kind of kicking that can down the road until I see if they can actually manage to animate whatever the fuck happens after the Shibuya arc. But we'll get there eventually.
Yeah, but there's that kind of arc where that happens, and then immediately after that is the first truly like devastatingly emotional arc, which is parents are going to visit him are like coming back to visit, right? And while they're at the airport, just kind of like taking the bus to whatever connection, right? Akira's dad is revealed to have a demon inside of him, and the demon slaughters everybody in the bus and like eats all of their bodies. And Akira and Rio pick up that like something's wrong, so they follow the tracker in Akira's mom's phone, I guess, to this warehouse, or this not warehouse, like a hangar, I guess, right? And in the hangar is the demon who has now like basically absorbed all the bodies, but their faces are still like on the chest of it and like still
screaming for help.
Yeah, screaming for help. And I've always found that kind of imagery to just be like so patently terrifying. The idea that like you're in some kind of painful process and you can't do anything about it, right? And some liminal state between existing as your own thing and not, right? That's always been terrifying to me, even though like it's not a thing that really, you know, outside of the rat stand.
Bro, I swear to God, you guys don't understand. You privileged little non-stand users. I swear to God, you don't understand what a rat problem is actually like.
You never get it.
Getting turned into the rat cube.
Thankfully, rats take a lot less time to cry themselves to death than
about to say
than Aqua Necklace did.
Thankfully, I can just punt them and they just like pop in the air like balloons.
Yeah, but anyways, yeah, Akira has to like basically like compose himself enough to kill this homunculus that has become of his mom and dad and others, right? And it's kind of the precursor to everything else that happens, where it's nothing is off the table, right? Anything terrible and awful can and may happen to these characters. And actually, everything terrible and awful does happen to these characters. I can't think of a single good character in this show. Actually, literally can't, because everybody dies. But
oh my God, dude.
It's a rough go of it, right?
Yeah. It's not a happy
really
show. This is not a happy show. We're watching it in October so that you get the sense that like
it's spooky. Ooh.
Not a happy
this isn't
show.
Spooky so much as it's just depressing.
It's just depressing.
To be honest. I should have I couldn't have known. You should have told me.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. I forgive you. But I'm sure Uzumaki will just be very peachy and we'll have a very happy ending.
It's gonna be depressing to talk about in a different way, at least.
Amen. We don't know what studios worked on those. We'll let's just hope and pray. But
we have theoretically 20 something, or sorry, we have theoretically in the teens of days to get more information on this, so we will hold our opinions.
Yeah, we will. But this is the part where the show tells you how bad things can get, right? And then the next episode is the big tournament, right? The big track and field show, not show, but I don't know what else to call it.
The track and field
the track and field event where Miki, Akira, Miko, and we didn't even talk about the rappers, but one of the rapper guys. Let's talk about the rappers, actually. Let's put a pin in this episode and talk about the rappers, right? The rappers are cool as hell, right? Obviously they're kind of harassing Miki is the first thing we notice about it, but like they're also not like they're not harassing her in like the we intend to harm you way, just kind of in like the stupid teenager we're trying to flirt with you kind of way, you know?
Just like a very annoying and very still like leery, but like at the same time very innocent kind of, hey pretty lady.
Yeah, that sort of thing. And when you pair it with their actual kind of like beatboxing, like freestyle raps that they do, especially in the early episodes, right? There's just kind of like these interstitial moments where they're working through their feelings of what's going on in the world. It gives them a greater sense of inner depth, right?
But there's always a kind of like hopeful feeling to it at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're processing the kind of ennui that they're going through, this feeling that their generation isn't going anywhere, but like we're still going to try kind of things, which is again another emblematic thing of the core theme, which is that empathy and optimism are always worth it, even if it doesn't change anything, right? But
because at the end of the day, if everything is going to suck anyways, why go around making it worse for people?
Exactly. But the interesting thing with this choice about the rappers, if you watch the English dub, is that they leave the Japanese rap.
Oh, do they?
They do. So they're not dubbing it over and like trying really hard to like get the lyrics and the flow right. They just rap in Japanese still. on the one hand, it's like I can't quite catch as much of the lyrics because they're going so fast and I can't read that fast. But it's also like, I also just appreciate that, like, when these rappers went into the booth and like actually like gave their freestyle performances, that they left that in. And that they just let you experience that in the dub still.
Right, rather than like saying, oh, well, this isn't English, so we need to dub over it.
Yeah, exactly. And I bring up these guys, first of all, because they'll be important in later episodes, but also because in this episode that we're talking about, so there's a kind of like, there's a side thing going on where Miko and one of the rappers, let me just pull up his name real quick. No, it's Cocoon. Mm-hmm. So Cocoon is one of these rapper guys. He meets Miko thinking that she's Miki because he's done the phone book thing and tried to like track her down, right? Just so he can flirt some more, right? But he tracks down the wrong Miki. And so, excuse me. So, but they kind of hit it off when he raps about her in this like really eloquent way. That's the part where it like really solidifies that like, oh, these guys aren't that bad, right? They're just kind of, they're trying to work their way into the world in a way that like makes sense for them and like try to work through the way that masculinity's been taught to them, right? But after that happens, Miko and Cocoon go to one of these nightclubs, just thinking that's a regular nightclub.
Right, we'll go to the club.
Turns out they get eaten,
killed by demons.
Killed by demons, and now they have demons inside of them, right? Actually, before this happens, there's that other arc with the two demons, the one who's like always got her boobs hanging out, and then there's the other one who's like a big, like hunky quadruped looking thing, right? Yeah, so they briefly have that arc where it's established that this woman demon who is like still violent and angry and vengeful might have the capacity of love for this other demon. And that kind of sets something in Akira that's like, oh, maybe these devils aren't just these things that we have to hate about ourselves and about others. Maybe they're just a facet of ourselves that we can accept, right?
Right.
And that can be accepted by the rest of society if they're just convinced that it's all cool, you know?
Snake, do you think love could bloom on a battlefield? I mean, it's so deeply bitter and so deeply depressing, but so just like obstinately hopeful. So
that's the push and pull of this show, and I think like that's another thing that is kind of divisive about the show is like, can you handle like how dark this show goes and still kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? And like that's kind of the emotional roller coaster that I went through, is just the feeling that like everything got destroyed, but it was also all worth it, right? That's the reason why I was laying on the floor, just like, oh my god.
Well, all worth it is interesting. So like,
at least all of the kindness and goodness is what I mean.
All of the kindness. Well, yes. So all of the kindness and goodness pay off. Potentially, we don't really know, but theoretically, I think this is where the hope is. But hopefully, pay off in the sense that Satan, in whatever sense he's meant to be depicted here, more as like the fallen angel archetype that may be trying to learn a lesson to achieve status again. The hope is that this message has finally fucking clicked. This lesson has been learned that empathy and love and care for others is not only worth it, but fundamental.
Yeah, and like we'll get into that with the ending. But so I say all that because in this arc, when there's this race going on, and Rio, who is again like who has like this network TV thing going on with the sponsorship, or
Right.
with the events. He sneaks into Cocoon's drink some kind of substance that's supposed to
Demon mode.
yeah, that's supposed to trigger demon stuff or make him more susceptible to becoming a demon, right? And then on top of that, he also like displays within the arena during the race a bunch of like exciting pornographic stuff to just like to just get his mind off of the race and like onto like these kind of like carnal thoughts, right?
The base level, like the human natural desires, the food, shelter, procreation.
Exactly. And that works and gets Cocoon to transform into like this boar monster that tramples all of the students in the arena while people are watching and while the television cameras are filming. And Rio's like, "Oh my god, it's proof that
Holy
demons
shit.
exist, everyone."
Look, guys, demons are real.
Yep. Exactly. And this episode leads to two very important things, which is, first of all, obviously now the whole world knows that demons exist, and that starts throwing everything into chaos. But then two, Akira sees Cocoon, this guy that he knows, and who becomes a demon, and he decides, instead of killing him like Rio told me to, I'm going to pick him up, move him onto this abandoned rooftop to just chill the fuck out, and then we're going to see if this guy is actually a demon or if he's another Devilman, right?
Right.
Like, oh, and the other thing about Devilman that I forgot to mention is that Devilman, the original manga and anime, is canonically in this show, right?
Yes, it is.
Like, that's a fun little detail that I love, that Taro just like a big Devilman fan and just loves this old cartoon. And Akira's like, okay, well, that's going to become my persona. I'm Devilman. Like, I think that's really cute. And like, it does a good job in universe of setting the expectation that like this is not an adaptation of the original manga. It's going to follow like a very similar arc, but it's also its own thing that can do its own stuff. And I feel like to a discerning audience member, that should communicate that this is its own thing and that you shouldn't expect a proper adaptation of Devilman. But asking for audience literacy is sometimes a little too much.
God, if I hear one more motherfucker tell me how Saltburn is the most fucking mind-boggling deep movie they've ever seen in their lives. Oh my god, you gotta watch Saltburn, dude. The less you know when you go in, the better. It's just so crazy. It's just, you gotta watch it. Oh man, Saltburn, dude. Shut the fuck up.
Saltburn is... I can really only compare it to Megalopolis. That's the only comparison point I have. It's just one of those movies that's like such an expression of a true vision and like so impressive on so many levels, but also so deeply fundamentally stupid.
What you should compare it to is the new Ripley TV show.
I know about Mr. Ripley and all of his adaptations and how they are similar to Saltburn, all right? But look,
you know more than any motherfucker that tells me to watch Saltburn.
Just watch the bathtub scene on YouTube. That's the movie.
The bathtub scene, Freudian slip, sorry. The bathtub scene and the grave scene. Yeah. Really
Coomer's
important to the fucking plot and development of these characters for me to watch this guy fuck this grave. Fuck you.
But yeah, so the shit's getting fucked up, right? The whole world is in disarray now because like there's demons everywhere and like who can we trust, who can we not trust, right?
Right.
And that gets exacerbated later on when Rio essentially tells everybody this lie that like demons are just something that you can have if you're like particularly emotionally unstable, which is like seems to be commenting on mental health. It's like, you know,
I got demons.
Exactly. I got demons. And if nobody does something about these demons, I'm going to do a Joker.
I had a coworker one time who he said he had demons, but it was just crabs.
That guy needs to see a demonologist immediately. But yeah, but like the world's kind of like tearing apart. Society's forming into like these different stratified factions, and there's poverty everywhere now, and like just shit's getting real bad. And as this is happening, it's revealed that Taro becomes a demon at some point, right? The little kid in the family.
Yeah, the baby sister or baby brother?
Yeah.
Baby sister.
Yeah. The baby brother.
Oh.
So when he turns into a demon, and when Akiko notices this, there's a scene where they're talking to some other family who like puts their dog on a leash somewhere, and then as they're talking, they look over and the dog's
Taro fucking gone,
missing.
Yeah.
So then the mom goes looking for Taro, and he's like hiding behind a car, having just devoured the dog. And she's like, "Oh my god, he's a demon, but he's also my son. I have to just like leave and protect him because I don't know what my husband's going to do if he figures out, I guess." Right?
Right.
So,
and that's the other thing is like the designs of these things is like Devilman is like, he's bipedal. He does kind of just look like a superhero in like a vaguely fucked up sense, but like especially the Taro devil transformation. Thing. Yeah, a little like slug guy with legs that's just got like the top half of this dog like just like like.
Yeah. So then the rest of the family is unsure where they're at. Then tracks him down, or like gets out the tracker and is like, this is where they are. So give that information to the father, who is like, Akira, take care of Miki. You know, you're the man of the household. I trust you. And then he leaves. Very American Dad kind of thing, you know. Good morning, USA.
I got a feeling that it's gonna be a wonderful day.
Exactly. That's what I meant by American Dad. But Peter Griffin too goes to
CIA Peter Griffin.
Yeah, exactly. CIA Peter Griffin goes to the kind of like homeless encampment that Taro and his mom are supposed to be at. And he comes upon Taro midway through eating his mom, right? And it leads to probably one of the most devastating moments in the show. The second most devastating
moment in the show.
There's 3 absolutely devastating moments in this show. This is the second most one, and the first most one is the one that comes after this. But
weirdly enough, the third most one is the last one.
Yeah, weirdly. It's almost like there's an escalation going on here. But anyway, he's just so like morally conflicted about it, because it's like, I either have to choose between him eating my wife or killing my son, you know? And you see like him conflict about it for like 1 to 2 minutes straight. He's just like pointing the gun up and then down and then up and down. He keeps like breaking into tears, you know?
It's a fucking ridiculous scene to watch, because he like whips open this curtain and you're right, he pulls the gun out and he's just streaming tears and he's just pacing, walking in circles like, what the fuck do I do? What the fuck am I supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly. And he eventually decides not to do it and tries turning around. But turns out the military was watching him and was like, there's a demon, we gotta kill that fucker. So they go up with their guns and he's like, no, don't shoot, that's my son. Tears through all 3 of them. You know,
mows him down too.
Exactly. And again, you see this character through like a supporting character. He's only in a few scenes, but like you see him over the course of the show, and like you kind of get a sense of his shape as a person. And then when it just gets eviscerated in like half a second, it's
so American to have an illegal handgun concealed in the state of Japan.
No, actually, he gets it from another guy. That was one of the things I didn't talk about, was that there's an altercation in,
That's right. That's right. Sorry.
where he gets it off of some other guy.
How American to beat up and steal an illegal firearm from a...
You want to know what's more American than that? Is being a literal demon in disguise. Apparently that's how America operates, which honestly, on point. You know? Just keep shipping those bombs, man. You know? It's all right, Joe. Keep going, man.
Yeah, man. Me on the playground whacking other kids with a little stick and then running to the fucking principal and saying, "I'm just defending myself." Anyways.
What could this mean? Yeah, so back to Devilman. Akira finds the bodies, buries them, mourns them, and then returns back home, Miki, to deliver the awful news. And I think also at this point, Miki and Wamu's gang of little street rats meet up, because there's also that scene where they're in like some abandoned shopping mall or something, and she almost gets beaten up by some other thugs, and they come to protect her and get her out of that situation. Right. And so now they're all buddy, right? So then after, like, once Akira gives Miki this news, it's a really interesting moment where, like, Akira's obviously the first one to cry because he has just this great empathy within him, and Miki is just kind of like blank at first, right? She goes off, sequesters herself in her room, and then breaks down too. And like, I don't know, just like the processing of the trauma felt really real.
It's like it's very real to, like, for all kinds of reasons, but like, especially initially, news like that doesn't feel real. Mm-hmm. It, like, I mean, even sometimes for days, like, yeah, it just doesn't feel real, and it has to sink in that, like, holy shit. Especially the closer someone is, like. In those cases, it doesn't take days, but it's...
And she definitely doesn't process the trauma all the way through by this point, right? No. She just kind of has, like, that initial outburst before they're all interrupted by Ryo's essentially final broadcast to the world.
Hello, everybody. There am demons.
I'm making a call out post on my twitter.com.
Do not ask me.
Akira Fudo is a demon.
Do not ask me where the demons came from, how I know about the demons.
Yep.
There are demons. That guy right there, he's one of them.
Akira Fudo is a demon. He took his big quilly dick out. He was this big.
Is that a copy pasta? Is that a post?
That's the Sonic piss on the moon.
We're gonna have to have a fucking PowerPoint stream about Sonic piss on the moon, I guess.
We can do that if you want to turn the Lord of the Rings episode into a Sonic 3 episode.
Oh, Sonic 3 the movie? What? I'm so confused, Josh.
I'm just saying we can talk all things Sonic if we just talk about Sonic the Hedgehog 3 in theaters December whatever. Sega, if you give us a check, we will do an episode on
Sega. If you give us a check, we will do an episode exclusively.
We will make
about
December
Sonic the Hedgehog 3, the film, and also everything Sonic the Hedgehog related. I mean, everything.
Yep. Sega, if you give us a check, we will make all of December about Sega. We will have Metaphor Refantasio.
That is Sega.
Yeah, right before the Game Awards. And then we'll have Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and all things Sonic on
Sega December.
that episode.
Josh can teach me about Sonic the Hedgehog, because all I know about Sonic the Hedgehog is dying.
I don't know fucking shit about Sonic.
Most of what I know about Sonic is Chris Chan and Sonic Unleashed.
I have the first volume of the IDW comic, and that's it. All right.
I do. What the other thing I know about Sonic is that version of Sonic solos Goku and the entire Dragon Ball verse.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about every good character in this show dying from that fun tangent about Sonic.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, so Akira's a demon, and everybody's on the way. Yep. Everybody is on the way.
Yep, and Wamu's gang is understandably pointing guns at him like, we can't fucking trust you, dude. Right. Though, like, obviously Rio is playing into like this kind of stereotypization, this kind of othering, which wonder if that's relevant to our time. but right before they're going to kill him, Miki comes back downstairs and she's like, so I know that you're not a demon. You're not an evil because you cried before I cried, right? You have done so much good for our family, and you've been so kind and always just like so empathetic towards everyone. I can't believe you're a demon. Even now, you're still being empathetic and kind, and I can't believe it, that you're evil to your core. And so when she defends him, everybody else is like, well, fuck, we can't argue with Miki, I guess. Which is fair, because she's cool, and
she makes a good point.
She makes a good point. She makes good Instagram posts, I guess, you know?
Jesus.
Which, you know, there's a whole little segment there where she's posting on Instagram like, oh, my brother, he's actually so nice and so great. And like, you can, if you pay attention to the shit that people are commenting under her post, it is some of the most rancid shit. And right. I'm like,
well, some of it's really
that's so
awful,
true to the internet.
But then you also see like a couple heads turning, like a few guys in the comments that are like, oh, I don't know, maybe she's right.
Yeah, exactly. And then they're like, no, shut the fuck up, you're a demon.
What are you, some sort of demon?
It's so much truer in Elon Musk's Twitter, but
holy shit, man. What a cesspool.
Wretched hive of scum and villainy, that place. I haven't seen the video, but I know that he just unveiled a ton of shit today. Like some kind of bus and some kind of robots and stuff Elon Musk unveiled. And like, dude, just shut the fuck up and leave. Hey, nobody fuck with you. Go home.
Stop with all the my mom won't let me fight Mark Zuckerberg bullshit.
Look, Elon, you
let Mark Zuckerberg do the one good thing he'll ever do in his life. And lay you the fuck out. Just let it happen. Dude, Jesus
how many
Christ.
years ago was that? That
like 2 or 3 years ago at this point.
I wish that had happened, man.
Bro, they're still chatting about it, and he's still just like, my mom won't let me do it, and my dad needs to improve, and I need to work out. I
genuinely believe that would have been like a branching reality if Mark and Elon had been able to duke it out. We would be on a different trajectory right now. God, because no way people would still be on his side if he got fucking decked by Mark Zuckerberg. By fucking Jesse Eisenberg ass Mark Zuckerberg.
Jesse Eisenberg fucking Winklevoss twins rowing.
But yeah, Devilman goes out to try to set the world straight and to be like, you know, demons aren't so bad, you guys. We just gotta like be empathetic with them and try to understand their side of things.
Right, and thus starts the Demon Man Saves the Demons arc where he talks to them kindly.
Yeah, exactly. And like it's a little corny, right? Like the way they resolve that, where like they're intercutting Miki's you know, Instagram post or whatever, and her just being like, I love my brother so much, with Akira just like standing in front of these people getting stoned, being like, why are you guys doing this? Leave them alone. It's kind of corny, but at the same time, goddamn, sometimes corny hits.
Kill the part of you that cringes. Do not kill the part of you that is cringe. Kill the part of you that cringes.
Exactly. That's the third lesson of this shit, is kill the part of you that cringes.
Endure hardship.
Be nice.
Be nice.
Kill the part of you that cringes.
And embrace silly.
But yeah, like, they intercut that, and like, it is kind of corny, but at the same time, up to this point, you kind of need the salve to be like, okay, so maybe things are going to be okay. Maybe, maybe the world isn't literally fucked beyond repair. And then they're like, the world is fucked beyond repair. Because when that gang shows up at the Makimura house, it's a bloodbath, man.
Oh my god, dude.
And to be fair, Wamu and his gang do their best. They hold him off for quite a while.
There are hundreds of fucking people here.
Exactly. Miko is also there. Miki and Miko kind of have like a little heart-to-heart later on, or earlier on, but like, they're kind of straight now, and Miko's like, okay, Miki, I'm gonna turn into my demon form, and we can get to safety at least, while these guys hold them back. Which, a little bit inconsiderate to not offer them a ride as well, but maybe she's just a one-seat vehicle. Door, Rose. Maybe she's just a one-seat vehicle. Who knows? But
my new Shin Megami Tensei mount.
Yeah, you ain't a warthog. This is just a banshee, man. I've only played one Halo game.
That looks like a warhog. You ever wonder why we're here? Fucking
RVB, man. RVB.
Thank God.
Man. But you think that they've finally gotten out of this standoff with the mob, right? Like, they kill all of Wamu's gang, right? In pretty upsetting ways. I think even one of the guys who's part of the mob is like one of their old gang members who like basically got radicalized, right? They don't put too much of a pin on it, but like, there's that moment where like that one guy is like, has a knife, and the other guys are just standing there like not sure what to do,
right?
Because it's their buddy, and then the guy just like stabs him. That's upsetting because of just like that betrayal there, that like the hate has gotten to him so much that he kills his own friends, right? But you think that at the very least Miki and Miko have gotten out of this. They haven't. They track him down and gun Miko down. And Miki like almost gets away, it seems, right? Because another truck shows up with Wamu inside of it. Turns out it's just Wamu's dead body that they use to like, to be honest, it's a little bit cheap for the audience, because it's like, it didn't have to be that way, but like, either way, it's just deeply upsetting that like, she just gets gunned down.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to hit the fucking Evangelion pose on this one. Like, holy shit, man! Like,
yeah. We'll get to Evangelion someday, I'm sure. How many episodes is Evangelion actually?
I don't know, like 20 something.
Really, 20 something? We should do it in one go, of course.
We should do one 40-minute episode on Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Exactly. And it's just us like sitting down like
Cruel Angel's Thesis plays.
Yep, exactly. But and not only do they all get gunned down, but when Akira returns, they have their body, like their remains on pitchforks and stuff, and like shaking them around.
Oh my god, dude!
It's truly some of the most heinous shit I've seen, and like again, to come from the studio that also did Night is Short, Walk On Girl, probably one of the sweetest movies I've ever seen.
And Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, right?
Yeah, and two of the cuter segments on Star Wars Visions, and just like all this stuff that's like more sweet and innocent. Just like, where does this darkness come from, my dude?
For every Night is Sweet, Walk On Girl.
Yep.
For every 10 Night is Sweet, Walk On Girls, there's a Devilman.
Yeah.
But even Devilman is
literally
me.
But no, sometimes I'm at it's so over, and sometimes I'm at we're so back.
It's so over, we're so back.
Exactly. But yeah, like, God, it's tough. Just like seeing everything get ripped out from under Akira, and this is the one moment where he rages out against the humans, right? Because up to this point, he's been like, no, it's peace. It's gotta be, right? I don't want to kill anyone. Right. And now it's like, well, you guys are so hateful that you're beyond saving, right? And obviously, just like, there's also just like the pure, like, instant trauma of it all, where he's like, fuck you guys.
Right. He already had to kill his own family. Yeah. And so then his adoptive family was killed. And then
all of his friends and the girl he had a crush on / adoptive sister,
all ripped to shreds, put on fucking posts, and being waved around like war trophies.
Yeah. So he just like burns them all to shreds, takes the head of Miki, and then tracks down Rio finally, just to be like, what was all this for, right? Like, why did you... The other thing we didn't really get into is that, like, Rio has kind of been pushing Akira through all of this, right? That, like, he started him on the kind of, like, the vigilante run, and has kind of been like, you know, I'm the mastermind behind it all thing, and Akira's kind of like the guy who gets it done, you know? So
I'm trying to think of a good analog.
I couldn't think of one. Really,
I also cannot.
But it's an interesting kind of like take on the superhero archetype, right? The one who gets roped into it by thinking he's doing the right thing when actually he's literally serving the devil, as he figures out on that cliffside of their old hometown that's just been demolished.
Right.
Rio, who has gone back to the jungle and had this kind of epiphany about the demons and his relationship to them, finally reveals himself to be Satan in front of Akira. And we didn't really talk about it, but like, there's gay going on there.
There's gay going on there.
There's gay going on in this relationship, right? Like, I mean, like, there's gay going on in the whole show, right? Because, like, you can kind of view, like, the whole demons, like, the whole demon thing, essentially, as a metaphor for, you know, being gay, right? Because, like, it's first, like, sequestered into, like, these debaucherous nightclubs, right?
Sure.
And there's this kind of, like, the vengeful outlashing against society, right? That feels like that feels as a response to bigotry, right?
Right.
And then obviously Akira and Rio have this interesting relationship that's like Rio's trying to understand Akira and Akira's trying to understand Rio, and like there's something going on there, right? And especially at the end, you get the sense that Rio really did in some sense care about Akira, right?
Right.
That he was the one person through all of this that he was trying to prove something to, right?
Right.
That like the world is bad and it hates us, but we can say fuck the world, we can destroy it.
Right.
And that kind of there's a gay going on there, right? And then of course, like Rio kind of has like that kind of like that more feminine look to him already. But then obviously in that 10th episode, when he transforms into Satan and like literally has like the beautiful blonde locks of hair and the angelic wings and the breasts, it's like, this is pretty gay.
Actual literal biblical hermaphroditic Satan.
Yeah, it's literally hermaphroditic, right? It's laying it on pretty thick that this is like, even if this isn't a direct allegory for being gay, right? Like, obviously, gay people aren't murdering other people, right?
It is kind of, and they were best friends to it.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that by the end, because, like, literally after, like, this final showdown where Akira's like, I'm going to destroy you and the rest of the demons, and I'm going to put an end to this war, right? After he tries that and fails, right? Just due to like the sheer power of Rio or Satan, I guess, right? After all that happens, right? Like Rio and Akira are kind of like laying out at the end of the battlefield, right? In the sea of like magma, right? As the world's literally been torn to shreds.
Right.
And after Rio monologues a little bit about his core philosophy of like the world is shit to us and there's nothing we can do but lash out against it, he looks over, Akira is torn in half and already dead, and then he realizes he has nothing left. The one person he was trying to like prove himself to and prove his philosophy to is gone, and he realizes that he actually did love something. Right. Even in this fucked up way, he loved something, and now that's gone, and he can't have it back.
And and in that one moment, it not only destroys the worldview that was just laid out, it sets him in the mindset that, holy shit, I loved him.
Yeah.
And he was fucking right.
Exactly. And he literally like cradles the remains of Akira's body in his arms, just being like, please come back, you're all I have left, as we pan out into like seeing the world in its completely destroyed form, and the angels finally descending onto Earth to rebuild it anew. And then we see like the new Earth with the 2 moons, and that's how it ends, right? It's the sense that like maybe we won't get through everything, but that doesn't mean that empathy and love are wrong. And if we can't survive, something else will be built on top of that, and maybe they can have that empathy and love to continue on, right? It's just like the death of the old world to begin anew, right? And obviously Rio doesn't die by the end of that, so maybe he's learned his lesson and can be better in this new world. It leaves it pretty ambiguous, as to how ardently it's being true to the Bible, and if it's going to actually like, if God's still going to repress Satan, or if he's going to like loosen up a little bit. And be like, okay, you learned your lesson, just be nice this time.
Not the God I know.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like, I haven't read Paradise Lost, but my understanding of it is that like it's also tapping into this animosity that Lucifer had, right? That it's like getting into the empathetic sense that like he believed that God was too powerful for his own good, and that he was being a corrupting force, and he tried to lash out against that and was ultimately proven wrong. And it's that kind of thing that it's latching on to, where it's like he's not wrong for recognizing the power of something and the corruption of something, but he's wrong in believing that the way to fight that is more corruption and badness, right? So that's kind of where the show leaves you, is just like everything that you've been watching up to this point is gone, but maybe there's something new on the horizon. And God, that's tough. To sit through a show that is 10 episodes long, right? Like, and like, even though like shit is obviously like not totally right with the world. It feels like from episodes 1 through like 4 or 5, the world is normal, right?
Right, normal
For the
as
most
it is
part.
now.
Yeah, that like society is functioning, and then like
Ish.
yeah, and then that it's that descent into progressively more degraded to the point that the world no longer exists.
Right.
That just feels like a gut punch, right? And I think I've realized about myself, that like I find apocalyptic fiction very effective, probably because of my upbringing. You know, again, probably need to see a therapist about some of it, but but my but that sense of like the world descending into chaos always, or like that always gets to me, right?
Right.
And the destruction of society as a whole. And that's why I find Berserk so deeply, potently disturbing by its end as well, you know? Though obviously that's not exclusive to people who have grown up with Christianity. I just find it more potent.
Well, I mean, shit, man. Apocalypse may not be fictional for too much longer. The climate, we are no longer facing a climate crisis. We are facing climate apocalypse now.
Yeah, and I don't know if the show really has much to say about that in particular.
No, not really.
It's a little more influenced by like, what's the word for it? Mutually assured destruction, right?
Right.
It's more nuclear, right? Which like,
Right.
you know, it's hard to create an environmental or natural apocalypse that is like immediately, like imminently dangerous, right?
Right.
In the sense that like it's compelling as a story, right? You know,
Whereas
the only version of that I can think of is Don't Look Up, right? But I guess there is probably something you can read into that about just like the man-made destruction of the earth, right?
Right.
And to what extent can we change it? And even if we can't, what's the value of, you know, living in the world as if we can, right?
I don't have an answer.
Yeah, I think the show comes to the conclusion that it was all worth it, right?
I like to think so. I would hope so. We can only believe.
I think that the show would feel a lot more nihilistic by the end if, well, obviously, if first of all, like it didn't give us the new world at the end, right? If it just left us with Rio holding Akira's body, right?
On debris in space.
Yep, all that's left is this one guy, right? But also, I don't know if you stuck through the entire credits of episode 9, but after the credits of episode 9, there is just a long dream sequence where Akira and Miki are riding a motorcycle together across the street, right? Did you see this?
Yeah, I've seen
post-credit scene. Okay, it's a gorgeous moment, right? It's like, it's very simple and very elegant and very plain, but at the same time it gives you the sense that even though Miki is gone, they're still together in some capacity, and it leaves you to believe that by the end of the show, as Akira has died, there's still something of that relationship that still exists.
Very oddly, I recently watched Cloverfield, and that was something that I got from that movie as well, when the couple, like, they're in the tunnel at the end and then the tunnel collapses and they're but it's like, it's this whole like little thread line that they played through where it was like this, like, watch Cloverfield, decent enough kaiju movie. Fuck TJ Miller.
Yeah, great directorial debut from Matt Reeves, who would go on to direct the 2 really good Planet of the Apes movies and the Batman. So worth checking out, I think. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else there is to really say about this show apart from like, I mean, we can talk about the score. The score is like bumping and crazy. Like,
very like, I don't even know if techno is necessarily the right word, but like there are a lot of different flavors to it.
I believe the genre I saw it listed as was EBM, electronic body music, which is just like, it's like this offset of EDM that's very like bombastic, you know?
Right.
Like, which I fuck with that shit hard. Like, I listened to the soundtrack and I like, checked half the and checked half of the tracks on it. So I was just like, man, I fuck with this shit hard. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say, right? Like, I guess we could talk about the Netflix of it all because that's kind of interesting, right? Like, Netflix has really made a big push towards anime as it's been producing original content. And I know that there's a cynical side to that, which is like, there's a lot of fucking deeply entrenched, like, what's the word for it? Like, just bad mistreatment of workers across the board. And just like the way the anime industry works is so like messed up in ways that we don't even get into in this podcast a lot, just because like it's.
We will when we talk about Jujutsu Kaisen for sure if we don't get there before then.
Yeah, but like the short version of it is that like there's a lot of like systemic issues with the way anime is structured, a lot of abuse of workers and stuff like that. And I've heard people speculate that the reason why Netflix gets into anime, has been going into anime so much, is just because like it's easier to get this stuff out on a fast turnaround than it is in the American television industry right now. But at the same time, like, this was one of the first Netflix anime shows, right? But one of the first original ones, anyways.
7 years ago, I believe.
Yeah, 6 years ago. 6 years ago. This is 2018. So it was one of the first ones, and it was the first one to like really pop off and become, and like kind of define Netflix as a place where anime kind of exists, which like second to Toonami, I think that Netflix is probably one of the most important distributors of anime in America, at least, right?
Sure. I mean, simply because it is like when people think streaming service, they think Netflix, because at least in this market, they were the first thing we knew. Like, I mean, I grew up through this happening. I went to fucking Blockbuster Video. They existed. They were real. You would go in. You would rent your VHS tape or your DVD or your video game or whatever.
Yeah.
You would go up to the counter and your parents would give an undisclosed amount of money to the man at the counter. And he would say, bring this back within a week and a half or the fucking FBI is coming to your house. This is real. This is actually how it used to be. And so you would go home and you would play the Curious George video game on your PS2 for exactly as long as you could before it was dinner time. And then you would stop playing, and then you would have to restart because you didn't have a fucking memory card. And then you took the game back. And then Netflix came around and they were like, hey guys, wouldn't it be rad if you could rent videos without leaving your house? We'll mail them to you. Yep. That's how Netflix started. They mailed shit to you. And then that became a streaming platform. They just started saying like, okay, give us money and we'll put all kinds of shit on the platform and you can just watch it.
Yep. And then
from there, it's just watch this. So, of course, eventually they're going to get into anime, and being the de facto streaming platform for several years, you just generate a viewer base, and a lot of those viewers are never going to have experienced anime before.
Yeah, and like, not only that, but the original Netflix anime side of things, right?
Yeah.
Like, they do handle a lot of distribution for shows that are financed otherwise, but they also just like produce their own stuff, right? Yeah. Devilman Crybaby was co-produced by Netflix. They put their own money into
Netflix original.
It. Yeah, exactly. Like they are like, I would say like behind Toonami, the most important force for like getting anime to the West up to this point.
Fuck
right?
you, Crunchyroll.
Like, yeah, Crunchyroll, like, I don't know. You can make an argument for Crunchyroll in some ways, but also like nobody likes Crunchyroll, right? And like,
and rest in peace, Funimation.
I don't think they, on their own right, had like a massive impact on things, right? As massive as Netflix, right?
Sure.
You could also argue for like Disney in the late 90s, early 2000s when they were acquiring the rights
with Ghibli.
With Ghibli, right? But that's also like pretty isolated, right? So again, I think that this show holds an interesting position just as like it was kind of the House of Cards of the Netflix anime, right?
Sure.
The way that House of Cards was like the thing that gave a Netflix original prestige.
Mhm.
This show is what told everybody that Netflix is a place where anime can be produced and distributed, right? It, to me, I think it holds an interesting place in the Netflix of it all.
Well, and there have been a handful of like fucking dog shit shows that they've produced. But then there's also been like Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which is a Netflix original. Like, and that's Studio Trigger. And it's a Trigger ass anime. Holy shit.
Man. Anyways, just like great. This is a great show. It's great. Like again, like the only real criticism I can have of it is that like it does in some ways feel like it's like it sets up certain things just to get an emotional reaction out of you, right? Like especially like those 3 traumatic steps that it goes through with Akira. They do feel a little bit not necessarily forced, but it's like they're putting this into the show to and like framing it in the worst way possible so that it gets a reaction out of you. Right. But at the same time, in a show all about like hanging on to your emotions through adversity and like keeping empathy and love within yourself through it all, I feel like you do sometimes have to go to those really dark places to explore that idea. Right.
To like effectively say, when you get down to the brass tacks, when everything is as bad as it could possibly be, how could you possibly persevere with any form of emotion or compassion or caring or love? And the answer is you just fucking have to, man.
Yeah, you just got to do it. And you know what you just got to do, listener? You got to just hit that subscribe button.
Hit that follow button. This is a 2.5 hour long episode. You should hit the subscribe button. You should check us out on the social media platforms at How to Otaku Pod. We're basically everywhere. We might want to get onto Blue Sky sooner or later.
We might. We'll figure that out.
If you ask us enough for a Patreon, we'll make one. Please leave comments in the comment section.
Yeah, of course. We have comments on YouTube and Spotify, so that would be fun. Leave us a review on Apple. That helps out as well. By the way, just letting you know, this is our longest episode to date.
I believe it. You've had a lot to say about Devilman Crybaby. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Serial Experiments Lane was 2 hours and 5 minutes, and then not Cowboy Bebop for that one. That one was only an hour and a half. Yeah, I think that this is our longest episode by a half hour.
Which is crazy for a 10 episode series.
Yeah, but it really is that dense, and I felt like it left a big enough impact on me that I was able to talk about it in great detail.
Man, Crybaby's a good show.
And that's as great of a recommendation as you can get, I think. You know? Yeah. Check us out on social media, man. I'm finally learning how to work TikTok, so we're gonna start popping off there, I think. But the Instagram's been doing pretty well too. Twitter not so much, but we might be going.
It's hard to gain traction
anyway,
on Twitter, and also fucking Twitter's a cesspool filled with bots and black holes.
Yeah, nobody likes it. Just check us out there, man. We're posting some funny shit there, I think. And some cool shit. And some fan art that people don't like.
I'm people. I will say, Josh did check with me before he posted that picture. I think anybody who's getting this far into this episode and looks at the Twitter will understand exactly what I'm talking about.
Fucking cute, though. They're so fucking cute. I'm the rabbit, okay? Leave me alone.
When I said tag yourself, that's not what I meant.
Don't worry, I tagged you too. October 28th, we're doing Uzumaki. You can catch that on the artist formerly known as HBO Max in the US.
Wait,
And-
what? Oh, is it? It's just Max now, right?
Yeah, it's Max. You know,
Artist formerly
unfortunately.
known as HP.
And check out our website. We're working
Oh,
on trying to get the
true.
URL to howtootakupod.com or howtootaku.com. We bought the domain name. I'm trying to figure out how to integrate it into the website itself, but the link will be in the description for the website if you want to check out our full new revised schedule. But yeah,
You fuckers
next
better
episode's
click that
gonna be-
link because Josh has been working on this website for like a full 3 weeks now.
I think you overestimate it. I worked on a version of it that we're not going to be able to use because it'd be really fucking expensive to pay for that service. But
Yeah, but you still
I did
He's
do some
downplaying
work
it.
on
click the
design.
fucking link. It's a very cool website. It will only get better from here. And assuming we have your financial support, our dear listener,
yeah.
then the website will get like way better and you'll get like
Yeah.
even more content because we'll be able to afford to say no to some types of work.
Yep. If you want us to financially succeed, just share us with friends.
True. Any weebs,
let other people who watch anime or want to watch anime know about this show so that we can all buddy up together, take it on as it goes. But yeah, if you want to see the updated schedule, that's going to be on the website. But next episode is Uzumaki, and there's no JoJo's coming up until November 25th. Just letting you guys know.
Some of you are really thankful, some of you are really sad.
I'm just happy that we're going to be finishing Diamond is Unbreakable by the end of the year. That's all I need is just...
Have you gotten any headway on that yet?
Not yet, but I'll get to it when I get to it. But I'm going to be spending a lot of time on Metaphor Reef and Tazio.
I am too.
Once my paycheck drops, and I'm just going to be like, okay, I can finally soak in this game. Just, bask in its glory, and then go to bed, have dreams about it, wake up, there's a big fucking splooge on the ceiling.
Go to bed, wake up, there's a giant Da Vinci fucking figure in front of me.
Anyways, thank you guys for listening to this episode. We'll see you guys next time. Until then, I'm Josh.
I'm Brogan. See you, Space
and we'll
Cowboy.
See you later, Space Cowboy.